There's a plant that grows almost as fast as bamboo. It pulls more carbon out of the air per acre than almost any tree on Earth. And when it is turned into a building material, it refuses to burn the way ordinary materials do. It can grow enough biomass to wall a small house in roughly 5 months on a single hectare of land. And yet, in the United States, you cannot legally walk into your backyard and plant it. Not one plant, not for personal use, not even as a hobby. The plant is industrial hemp. And the reason you cannot grow it freely is not a conspiracy. It is written, in plain language, into federal law. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what this plant does, why the science is so striking, and why the law treats a single backyard plant the way it does. Before we go further, let me be honest about the title of this video. The phrase burns cleaner than coal is a little misleading, and I would rather correct it than repeat it. Hemp's real superpower is almost the opposite of burning. When hemp stalks are mixed with lime and water, they form a material called hempcrete. And hempcrete is prized precisely because it is hard to burn, not because it makes good fuel. So as you watch, keep that correction in mind. The magic here is carbon, not combustion. Let me start with how fast this plant actually grows. Researchers describe industrial hemp as one of the fastest growing plants in the world, in the same conversation as bamboo. It can grow roughly 50 times faster than the trees we cut for lumber. That speed is the whole reason the carbon numbers are so dramatic. The plant pulls carbon dioxide out of the air as it grows. The faster it grows, the more carbon it can lock into its stalks in a single season. Now, a quick pause, because what comes next is the heart of the video. I have put together a complete reference guide that goes far beyond what I can fit into 10 minutes of narration. Inside that guide, there are 3 things I simply cannot show you here on screen. The first is the complete hempcrete process from stalk to finished block. The second is the state-by-state map of where home cultivation is actually possible. And the third is the carbon accounting worksheet for a single wall. Those 3 things are all inside the guide. The link is in the description below. If you want the practical, usable version of everything in this video, that is where it lives. Now let me get back to the science, because it only gets more interesting. A researcher at Cambridge University studied exactly how much carbon this plant captures. His finding was that industrial hemp absorbs somewhere between 8 and 15 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare of cultivation. For comparison, he noted that forests typically capture only 2 to 6 tons per hectare each year. In other words, by this measure, hemp can capture atmospheric carbon roughly twice as effectively as a forest. And here is the part that surprises people the most. Most ordinary farmland actually releases carbon into the air, on average around 3 tons per hectare per year. Hemp does the reverse. It is one of the few crops that leaves the soil and the air better than it found them. Let me say a word about why that matters for buildings specifically. The construction industry is responsible for a very large share of global carbon emissions, by some estimates close to 40%. Most building materials carry what is called embodied carbon, making them release carbon dioxide. Concrete, steel, and aluminium all pour carbon into the atmosphere before they ever hold up a wall. Hempcrete works in the opposite direction. The carbon captured while the hemp was growing stays locked inside the wall, and the lime binder slowly absorbs even more carbon as it cures year after year. Estimates suggest hempcrete can keep absorbing carbon dioxide for up to 100 years after it is installed. 1 cubic meter of hempcrete wall can absorb on the order of 160 kilograms of carbon dioxide during manufacture alone. This is why some engineers call hempcrete a carbon-negative material. It does not just emit less. Over its lifetime, it can remove more than it ever cost to make. Now, let me come back to the question in the title, the one that brought you here. If this plant is so useful, so clean, and so good for the climate, why can you not simply grow it in your yard? The answer is genuinely surprising, and it has nothing to do with secret agendas. It comes down to a single, stubborn problem of biology. Industrial hemp and the cannabis grown for its intoxicating effects are the same species. To the eye, the plants can be nearly identical. The only reliable way to tell them apart is a laboratory test for a compound called tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. Under United States law, the plant is legally hemp only if it contains no more than 0.3% of that compound, measured by dry weight. Above that line, the very same plant is legally classified as marijuana. Because no one can tell the difference by looking, the law does not trust the eye. It trusts the license. This is where the backyard problem appears. The 2018 Farm Bill, which removed hemp from the federal list of controlled substances, did not create a personal use exemption. To grow hemp legally, you must be licensed or authorized under a state program, a tribal program, or the federal program run by the Department of Agriculture. And this is the part most people get wrong, so listen closely. That licensing requirement applies regardless of scale. There is no exception for a single plant. There is no exception for a hobby garden. There is no exception for personal use. Legal experts describe unlicensed backyard hemp as one of the most persistent misconceptions in the entire field. Because hemp is no longer federally controlled, people assume a few plants at home must be fine. It is not. In some states, an unlicensed home grower can be charged exactly as if they had grown marijuana, because without a lab test, the plants are indistinguishable. To get a license, growers typically face a real process. A background check is a near universal requirement. You must report the precise location of every field, often with GPS coordinates. You must allow pre-harvest testing of the crop's THC level, and if the crop tests even slightly too high, it must be destroyed under supervision, treated legally as a controlled substance. This is why a plant that fights climate change is, for the ordinary gardener, effectively off limits. The law is not protecting a coal company. It is solving an identification problem with a paperwork requirement. So let me bring this all together. Industrial hemp grows nearly as fast as bamboo, and far faster than any timber tree. It captures carbon roughly twice as efficiently as a forest, somewhere between 8 and 15 tons per hectare. Turned into hempcrete, it becomes a building material that resists fire and keeps absorbing carbon for a century. And the reason you cannot plant it freely in your yard is not suppression. It is the simple fact that the law cannot tell it apart from its intoxicating cousin without a license and a lab. That is the honest version of the story behind the headline. If you found this useful, the full reference guide goes much deeper than I could here. Remember, it contains the 3 things I could not put on screen. The complete hempcrete process from stalk to finished block. The state-by-state map of where home cultivation is actually possible. And the carbon accounting worksheet for a single wall. All 3 are inside the guide. The link is in the description below. And if you want more videos that take a surprising headline and tell you the real verified story behind it, consider subscribing. It genuinely helps the channel, and it means the next one finds you automatically. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I will see you in the next one.